This particular iron comes with a 3/8 chisel tip, and it's perfect for laying it on lead on the diagonal and actually getting that joint all at one time. So we're going to set this one off to the side because we are going to solder some lead today because we're going to talk about both things. So what we have is I've taken the time to make myself a cute little green and glue chip notebook today. And if you guys want to solder along with me and you've got a project that you've got going on and you want to maybe start soldering it today and solder along with me, you're welcome to. That'd be awesome. I'd love to have you. So our next thing that we need to talk about in our studio is just our soldering iron stand. It's no big deal. This one right here, as you can see, has been around for quite a while, but it's my favorite. And you know, there are soldering iron stands that your iron, you know, sticks down inside of. And so what I found is I can put this in backwards. I can install my damp sponge right here at the end so that when I clean it and pull it to me, it's not going to pull my sponge off of my soldering iron stand. So it's kind of neat. I like it. And the other cool thing about this is my dad made it. So I got to hang on to it. It doesn't matter how bad it burns up. You guys know, and I know, it's not going anywhere. It's staying with me. So next on our tool list, now remember guys, these tools, you can find all of them on our Amazon shopping page. And the link is right here on the page for you, I believe. Let me check with the producer.
I'll have to put it back on the page. It was at the other live.
It was at the other live, okay. Well, we'll put it back on the page because we did find this iron here. And if you do a lot of copper foil work and if you do sun catchers and stuff, you're going to love this little iron here. Okay, so next is the utmost important thing when we're soldering, and we all know what it is, guys. It's our rheostat, or our iron temperature controller. Now, again, we've put one up. It's a Lepinette. We've put one up on our website, on our shopping page, and it's really a good iron control. It's kind of heavy. It's not going to go around anywhere, and it's well made. So that's what we like about this. So what we're going to do here, now keep in mind, we're going to do a Q&A at 11:30. We're going to take a break before we get going crazy soldering and stuff. And I'm just going to change the patterns of this a little bit every now and then so we get a little something looking over here. Now, I don't use the salmonella block or any of that other stuff. I use a damp, natural sponge right here. And it's damp. I mean, I can't even wring water out of it. But it's damp enough to clean the iron tip for me. And that's all I need. I don't need to spend a lot of time giving the iron tip a bath because I don't want it to cool down that much. I'd like to get to work sometime. So let's talk about, now we've got our wattage controller. This controls the temperature of our iron. Many of you have Weller irons and you have the 700 degree tip or the 650 degree tip or the 800 degree tip. Here's the thing, guys. You don't need to solder really at any of those temperatures. Typically, this tip here, when I get the perfect color on it, is running at about 570 degrees. That's a beautiful temperature for soldering copper foil. And it's still not hot enough to melt lead if you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. So let's talk about something else. Guess what? Fluxes. We're going to talk about fluxes. Now everybody knows that Ed and Barb here in the studio at Conway Glass, we use the Ruby Flux. Now I keep this in a jar, you know, in a mason jar. And the Ruby Flux, again, is a liquid flux. I don't like paste fluxes because they smoke. And they'll actually, you know, here's the thing, guys. I haven't ever found that the Ruby Flux causes the tip of my tongue to burn. But, you know, if you are finding that you're using a flux that the tip of your tongue is starting to burn while you're soldering, you might want to check your ventilation rather than your flux. You should not have that happening to you, and if it does, check the ventilation in your studio, and it may not be turning over quite as fast as it needs to. Typically, your studio air should turn over 3 or 4 times an hour. So keep that in mind as well. Keep fans blowing. Don't blow them on your work because that cools your iron. But if you'll circulate the air, those fumes will move away from you, and you won't end up with the burning tongue or a headache or anything like that. And keep in mind, guys, after you're done using your flux and your soldering, wash your hands really well and clean them really good, and then make sure they're dry. All right, so next on our little list is our solder. Okay, so because we're doing copper foil, everybody, we're using 60-40 solder. Now, the 60-40 solder means there's 60% tin and 40% lead. So what happens? When you go to patina your work and you're using 60-40 solder, now you've already cleaned it with your baking soda and water, you've allowed it to dry, and then you're going to put your patina on it. Well, the reason the patina is going to look so good is because you did use 60-40 solder. Now, the 60-40 solder, the patina is designed to color or oxidize tin. And that's why you're going to find, after you remove all of your solvents and everything and clean the glass really well, you're going to find that the black patina will turn your work just jet black, really pretty, like it's supposed to. And if you use a 50-50 solder, you're going to find it's just not going to get as dark because it's only tin and half the tin and half the solder. But because there's 40% tin in the 60-40 solder, and I mean 60% tin, and I sound like Biden, I'm getting my things all confused here. But anyway, hey, if I had to remember all those names, I'd go crazy too. But anyway, so here's our, now, also I want you to remember, a lot of different manufacturers of solder out there. The manufacturer that I say to use is the one that has the best price. Most of your solder manufacturers don't have a lot of trash in them. I'm going to tell you the best one is Canfield. Canfield has absolutely no trash. White Metals is your next one. They're really good about not having trash in their solder. And I just got this new, it's called Avril, and it's a brand new 60-40 solder. It was pretty reasonable, and we're going to be trying it here today. Now, I got 60-40 solder because in our beginner stained glass here at the studio at Conway Glass, that's what we use is 60-40. We want to teach everybody the correct way to do their projects, and we're going to start out right here in this room. So here we go. So we've got our flux. Next is going to be our flux brush. Guys, when you get a flux brush, you know what it looks like. It looks like the bearded man right there. It's all crazy, lots of hair on it and everything. And we don't need that. What that does is waste flux. So what I do is I take a pair of scissors and I cut all those hairs off so that I get a nice little stiff, short brush, and I really like working with it that way. All right, so we have done several things already this morning, and we have yet to start soldering. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to plug in our soldering iron. Now keep in mind, guys, I'm going to do this left-handed because I am left-handed. And I just dropped my sponge, so I need to get my sponge for us. But I did plug in my soldering iron. Now I haven't chose, hello everybody. I haven't chose my temperature to work with yet, but normally, because we're doing copper foil, I'm going to turn my iron control up to about 7.5, somewhere between 7 and 8, and then we're going to allow our soldering iron to heat up. So before we get started, all this has to take place, and we want to make sure that before you start soldering, you want to be comfortable.
We'll fix the table next week or next time.
So I'm going to bring this over here and we're going to twist it all up. And those of you that watched the decorative soldering video, you notice that Barbara made a notebook very similar to this. And I'm not going to be teaching y'all how to do decorative soldering today. We are going to talk about just soldering a bead. And so many of you, I mean, not all of you, have just a little problem with it. A lot of it is the temperature of your iron. The other thing that I've found, and in teaching classes over the years, is that people don't give the solder enough time to melt before they start moving the iron. And they treat it like a paintbrush, and it is a soldering iron. So the iron is hot, and I'm just going to take this, and I'll let you see it. See that? 1, 2, look at that. See how clean that iron came, y'all? Now it's turning gold. And I think you can see that. Can you see it turning gold? It's turning gold because my soldering iron is the right temperature. If your tip, oh, there's really a pretty gold there, Barb. Can you get that? Maybe there. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty gold tip. Now, keep in mind, 60-40 solder and 50-50 both melt within 5 or 6 degrees of each other, and your 60-40 is going to melt somewhere around 464 degrees, plus or minus 1 or 2. So we want to make sure, just a test. See that? Boom. Just a test. Okay. Now I'm going to cut this back just a hair. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get out our Ruby Flux. So our Ruby Flux, y'all, we just buy this stuff by the gallon, and we use quite a bit of it. So what I do is I keep my little lid here from my jar. I come over here, and then I just pop the So the first thing we have to do, everybody, is we're just going to tack 2 little places here. And we're going to make sure that this doesn't move. Come down here to the bottom. Tack it. And tack it. All right, so I'm going to move these out of the way for us. Eventually, we're going to put all this together. So now what happens when we get ready to get this started? What we want to do is we want to go over the first thing we should do. We're just going to pretend this is a sun catcher. And the first thing that we're going to do, this is our sun catcher. The first thing that we're going to do is flux the perimeter, and we're going to put a little tiny bit of solder right there, just like that. And we're going to drag that solder a little bit more. So now we're going to be getting should be able to get some pretty good close-ups. All right, so what we've done now is we have tinned the perimeter. We haven't tack soldered the other side because that's why it's still so flimsy, okay? So let's do this. Let's flip it over. And we're going to tack solder the other side real quick, because I don't want this moving around. So one of the things we're going to talk about is, and we get questions all the time, not just me, but Barbara. We get questions all the time on the channel is, well, I don't understand what tinning is, or I don't understand how to bead the edge of my copper foil up on the outside edge. Well, there's two ways of doing it. One of the ways, of course, is when you're putting the wire on, that will help. But not everything needs wire around it. So why don't we go ahead and finish tinning this, just like this. We're going to finish tinning this, and you'll see just how easy that this is. And remember, now we're going to do a little Q&A right here at about the 30-minute mark.
And so we'll take questions about the process up to this point. And then we'll work some more and take some more questions. How's that sound?
Barbie, you know what? That sounds really good. And you know something? I was kind of like a kid at Christmas last night. Oopsie daisy. Because I was so excited about today. So you can do your edges like this too.
Yeah, we'll do more of
But
these.
we're going to do a little bit, we're going to do
That's
something
fun.
different here in a little bit on that. Okay, so now we have this, we haven't eliminated any hinge joints, they're still there. But what we've done is we've tack soldered it on both sides, and we've kind of stopped it and stiffened it up a little bit. Okay, so now we have that. And I don't know what time it is, Barb, but it's probably...
You got about 3 minutes.
Okay. So remember, guys, I turned my iron down rather than up because it was still a little bit too hot. When you put your solder on there, if it's too hot, it'll run right off of there, just like that. Okay? Now, and I want you to get ready to get used to not using your soldering iron like that. But I'm going to show you the best way to solder, and that is to use the corner, the front edge corner of your soldering iron tip. Now look, I just wiped that off, and you see it turning gold again? It's just the perfect temperature. But because we're going to take a couple of questions, we're going to go ahead and turn our iron back. Just pretend like even if we were to leave and use the restroom in our studio, turn your iron back. Don't let that bad boy sit there and run while you go to the bathroom or get a drink or what have you. So, so I think we're right there. We're at the 30-minute mark. And if we don't have any questions, I'll keep working. But I think we may have a question or two. I don't know. If we do, great. If not, I hope by now your all soldering irons are heated up.
I do have a question, and it's not related to soldering, but I just wanted to go ahead and answer Judy's question. She wants to glue on some gems to her stained glass window. What kind of glue to use so it doesn't show behind?
So it doesn't show behind it? It's really expensive, but if you don't want to see it, you should use ultraviolet epoxy. But then if you don't have an ultraviolet light in the studio, you're gonna need a UV light, and that's gonna be a long wave rather than a short wave. And also, Bowl, B-O-H-L-E, Bowl America in Charlotte, they carry the ultraviolet epoxies, and they're really good. But I think you're going to find they're about $90 an ounce. So E6000 isn't completely clear. Neither is completely clear silicone. Now you can use, and it's still expensive. It's $60 a tube. It's called water clear silicone, and it is crystal clear. So hey, that's enough of that question. Let's get on and talk about some soldering. And maybe copper foil your nuggets and solder them to the window.
Okay, Anna wants to know, do you use the same rheostat temperature with a 60 watt and 100 watt iron?
I do, because I'm controlling the temperature of the iron rather than the iron controlling me. Yeah. Yeah, so the temperature is going to be,
On the rheostat.
Yeah, the temperature is going to be on the rheostat, and I've got the iron turned way back now, and it's not even it's hot, but it's not hot at all. So I've got it turned back because we're taking a break and talking. But yes, if I put my 100p studio iron in there, I still start out at 7.5, and then I either go back or forward, and that depends. Like right now, see, we have an air conditioner vent that's blowing to my left and blowing right beside me. So this is why I moved the soldering iron almost to the middle of the table for us, because I don't need that air. I'm sorry, Barb, go ahead.
No, I have another question. Carla wants to know, so you are saying to tack one side, tin the edge, turn over and tack, then tin the other side.
Yeah, get that stuff out of the way. And then now we've got that, and it's gonna, what it does, Carla, and hey Carla, by the way, thanks for tuning in today, and thanks for that comment last week, I appreciate it. And so what you want to do by tinning the outside edge is you keep it and you make it a little more rigid. And if you'll tack solder it on both sides, then it becomes really rigid and you can work with it. So what we're going to do, when we get started back here on the soldering part of it, we're going to learn how to do, and this is for beginners, but a lot of people have a lot of trouble with soldering, and that's the reason we're doing this today. It doesn't matter if you're a novice or a professional. We've all had problems with solder, and it has always got under our skin at one point or another.
And Ray was kind enough to put the link to the touch and go solder method for beginners. And I guess that's one of our shorts. And
it is.
Yeah.
And it's what we're doing next.
And it's what we're
Thank
doing
you,
next.
Ray.
So Nina wanted one question, and then we can go back. Nina wanted to know, it seems like room temperature makes a difference for how my solder sets up. What is an ideal range for room temperature?
Well, the ideal range for room temperature, well, you ask Barbara this, I stay cold. So make yourself comfortable, but eliminate air movement over top of your soldering iron. But be comfortable, Nina. Be comfortable in your studio. And if you have to have air, even, any air blowing even above your head,
Sorry.
as the air...
Sorry about that.
That's all right. As the air moves, that moves this way always picks stuff up this way. So you get this. If you have air blowing across the top of you, or some kind of ventilation, that
Go ahead.
Oh,
I don't know what was going on.
I don't know either. But
Okay.
the biggest problem is that we didn't know what was going on.
I don't know.
Anyway, so here we go. Any more questions, Barb?
Bobby wants to know, do you use a fan to pull the solder fumes away from you?
Well, yeah, that's good. You can just turn it around and have the fan suck the fumes away from you, and that's fine, because that's not going to create a breeze, enough of a breeze to cause your soldering iron to cool down. So you just have to be real careful with it. And again, guys, this soldering thing isn't a science, because it changes each time you pick up that soldering iron and turn it on in your studio. Today, like the humidity this morning is 95% outside. In other words, by the time you get to the car, you're already wet. But what we're going to do is, so those when you take your soldering iron and you're trying to move air in your studio, if in fact, Bobby, you can have air being pulled away from you when you're soldering, that's perfect. I mean, it's perfect, and that's the way to do it. So we're going to get started. I just turned my soldering iron controller back up to 7.5. Well, I say 7.5. I put it in between 7 and 8. And we're going to start from there, and now I'm going to let my iron heat up because it went down to a dull pewter color, and that told me that my iron was too cold. And if you are working with an iron that's too cold, you're going to end up with little peaks on your solder. That means that your soldering iron is too cold. The other thing is if you have to give your solder, time to melt, guys. And the only way to see that is to look behind the tip while you're soldering. But if you're soldering with the tip laying down this way, it's going to be more difficult to see. If you turn your iron up and use, hang on, that thing's hot. Use that corner right there to solder and give it time to melt. Y'all, your work will change forever, and you'll be so excited because, several things that we do in the stained glass fabrication part, the design part, a lot of those things are quite difficult. And the main thing that helps you is by mastering them. You're not going to master all of them, but you're going to get really good at all of them, okay? So what we're going to do, let's start out. We're going to take our flux. Now remember, guys, this is the touch and go method. First thing we're going to do is we're just going to flux straight down. Now, it's not going to go and my solder is not going to start boiling because I didn't use so much of it that's what it's going to cause it to do. So what I want to do is I want to put my, let me move this out of the way. I want to put my solder down right there and take my iron, and I want to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, if we got a good close-up on that, you can see the solder melting behind my iron. Ready? Here we go. And touch the soldering iron. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just like that. Now, what you can do, it hasn't cooled off enough to touch it, but it's cooled enough to solidify it. So we're going to do our thing. And now, if you watch behind me, this is the best way to clean up the 1, 2. Give it time to melt. Pull it down. You see all that extra solder? Now what happened, solder, y'all, solder's like caulking. The more you fool with it, the worse it looks. So we want to make sure that we get our 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. And then you can go back if you need to and just touch that up. Just like that. Okay. So let me show you that again. 1, 2, I made a joke one time to somebody. They said, well, boy, you sure when you're doing that 1, 2, you just count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 all the time? I was like, yeah, I do, because you know why? They said, why? Because that's all the higher I can count. 1, 2. Here we go. Remember.
Today.
Give your soldering iron time to melt. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's kind of like when I'm When I'm teaching people how to blow glass, I have to remind them to keep turning the pipe, otherwise the glass ends up on the floor. So now I want you to see this, and you probably can see this. It's got like little ripples right here, because that's everywhere I went down. But if you take the edge of your iron and watch behind the tip, and it'll melt, and there it is. You don't drag it fast. Keep the solder pulled up on the tip behind it. Watch. There it is. Look like right there. That's it. The speed that you drag the iron depends on just how good your solder joint looks, okay? So now we're out of flux in this last 3 inches. And I'm gonna be the first one to tell y'all, I use the 1-2 method all the time, and then I just go back and clean it up. I find that it's easier for me to just do the 1-2 method. It allows me to get it done, and then I can go back and clean it up, and I'm finished. And because I'll be the first one to tell you, I've only probably ran, I don't know, a couple thousand miles of solder joints, but I mean, a lot of times it still doesn't look good enough for me. But I have found that the 1-2 method, well, it does a couple different things actually. The 1-2 method helps me get my bead so that it looks really nice. But the other thing that it does is it saves a lot of solder. Because we all know that solder is anywhere between $20 and $30 a pound right now. Okay? So we did the 1-2 method on this. It looks really nice. And then over this side, now see, it's even more rigid now. So we did a 1-2 method on this, and now I'm going to show you what to do on this, on the end. Now this requires you to have a helper. So you take your solder and you make yourself a little helper like that, okay? And don't put your hand around the glass like that. Never do that. Always hold it between 2 fingers. Always.
Got gloves over there, I was just saying.
Yeah, and Barb keeps gloves back here, and I've got a pair of gloves over there. We're not going to be working on this that long, but I do want to share it with you for this. So we're going to take a little bit of flux, because I have a lot of questions on, well, how do you do that? So what we've done is we've tinned this side, and we've tinned the other side. And when you tinned it, you felt like there was a little round edge on each side. Well, in order to make this thing really nice and rigid and look clean and finished, we also want that on the top. Okay. Now you saw that go down to the paper. It's a good thing it wasn't my hand. So you just take a little bit of, and you go using the corner, you go straight down and straight up, okay? So now those of you that are doing this and you're doing it on angles and stuff like that, you have to turn the glass to keep everything level. If I do that, watch, the solder will run down that way. See it? See it run down? If I do this, it runs back this way. And if I keep it level, it's got a beautiful bead around the outside edge. And that makes the copper foil rigid. You know, when you do that, you might as well just be putting this on it. Well, you are putting that on it. So think about that. Let's get rid of this right here, and we're going to go back over and we're going to clean this up. We're going to flip this over. Now, those of you that are really, I'm going to turn my iron down a little bit. Why? Because, watch. It goes from gold to blue. Blue's too hot. Just back your iron down just enough to eliminate the blue when you wipe it. Now it's gold. See it? And we're going to keep it. We're going to try and keep it gold. So now on this side, I want to show you the best way. Again, if you're just dead set on running a bead and not having to do it, and you can't get away from it, and the 1-2 thing just doesn't sound like you, this is what you need to do. You still have to give it time to melt. This, honestly, and I've seen a lot of people hold their soldering irons like this, you're better, it's personal preference, okay? It's not because Ed said so or because Barb said so. It's personal preference. When I learned to play the drums, this is how we held the drumsticks. This is a soldering iron, guys. This is not a drumstick. So let's take it and put it in our hand where we can control it, okay? And if we can control the soldering iron, then we can control the solder. So let's give our time to melt. Look at that beautiful color. Again, our soldering iron. Now when I'm doing this, I'm staying on top of the tip. Okay? So we got that going for us. But again, guys, and we're going to take a few minutes and answer a few more questions. But again, here's the biggest thing about soldering is you don't get in a hurry, you get your temperature right, and give the solder time to melt before you try, doing something else with it. Let's go over this one more time. I'm gonna show you what a hairy brush sounds like on your piece, okay? So if you go in here and you get you some flux and you don't knock it off and you flux this right here, this is it. Now, what's gonna happen? I got so much flux on there, I'm probably gonna end up boiling the flux, and it's going to give me little air bubbles. So when you get to the point where you have too much flux, okay, if you've put too much flux on your piece, you hear that? That's way too wet, y'all. Way too wet. Give it time to melt. See that popping and crackling like Rice Krispies? That's going to do two things. It's going to cause, watch, here they come. It's going to cause air bubbles in your solder. And we have questions that are called that say, hey Ed, when I'm soldering, I get little air bubbles pop up and I get all this brown stuff. All right, so the air bubbles that pop up, y'all, are way too much flux. You're over fluxing. And the trash that gets in your solder is because you're not taking the time just to wipe your iron, something as simple as that, so that you have a beautiful tip to work with. So Barb, we're going to take a moment and we're going to go ahead and take a few questions, and we're going to bring over these next 6 pieces of glass, and we're going to talk a little more about soldering.
Okay, well, let's see. I think that, let's see if what we have here. I think we've answered all the questions. what temperature should the Heiko 601 with the built-in rheostat be at? Now, Jules answered that because Jules has a Heiko and she runs hers at 370
That's the lowest temperature on the iron, is that
up
correct?
or down to adjust to room temperature.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Jules. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Nina wanted to know, do we use a tip tinner?
No. If when you first get your iron, you heat it up and you burn off. Did I bring that in here? On the end of your brand new iron is like a little plastic red or whatever color it is. Once you burn that off, and then you just take a damp sponge. If you're using a rheostat to control the temperature on your iron, there's no reason for your tip to become untinned. As far as tinning a tip, y'all, I don't think I've tinned a tip but maybe 2 or 3 times in the whole time that I've been doing stained glass. I was learned or taught to use a rheostat, and then my dad used to make them.
So when you first get your iron, you burn that plastic off, and then you do tin the tip with solder.
Yeah, what you do is you dampen the tip, allow it to come back up, put a drop of solder on each side of the tip, and then just let it sit there. And you're gonna find that your tip comes from the factory tinned, but you're gonna add solder to it, and before you put it away, and we're gonna show you this today too. Before you put it away, you're gonna turn it down, and while it's still hot, you're gonna put a layer of solder over top of your tip. And that way it's ready to go next time you go in.
Okay, one more question and we'll get started. Anna says, do you need 2 soldering irons if you do copper foil and lead work?
I think that's what I do. And I mainly use this 100p for my lead work. And I turn it up a little bit hotter than normal, but I try to work fast with it. And I also use the touch and go method that way. So when we get done soldering this, I'm going to plug this iron in here. And I brought some lead to the table with us today. And we're gonna talk a little bit about soldering lead and using the touch and go, the 1-2 method for touching up or for soldering your lead solder joints. Okay? Okay. Okay, well the first thing that we need to do with this bar is we need to get this where it's not going to move on us anymore. Okay? Okay. Tiny bit of flux. We're going to turn this around now. And again, flux right there on the very tips. Well, y'all, I sure hope that y'all have enjoyed this morning's little workshop about soldering. And you know, it's kind of a great way for us and for you guys as members to maybe, maybe expand on your soldering skills a little bit. Now, the other thing I want to show you, and y'all, everybody knows this too, is if we try to solder something that doesn't have flux on it, and this right here doesn't, watch what happens. Okay, so, and if your iron's too cold and it's not fluxed, that's what you get. You get that right there. Now, just simple enough, guys. Watch this. I'm just going to do that. And when we touch this, it's going to come to light. See it? All because, why? Because we put flux there. And if you'll keep the tip on your iron just wiped off a little bit, all of this black stuff, y'all, is what you'll find in your solder if you're not careful. So we have this all tacked together. I'm going to do one row touch and go, then I'm going to do one row running the bead. So here we go. See that? See how there's no flux down here? So now we'll get some flux there. So when you're soldering patterns, and they come in like this, when you run those beads in, you run one this way, and then come back and go right in the middle and move, just go boom, boom, and it'll bring that joint right down into a Y or a T, just like it's supposed to look. So keep that in mind too. If your piece of glass says there's a Y or a T, then you know what, guys? Make it that way. So here we go. We're going to run. We're doing slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just like that. Okay. The main problem, guys, with not just my soldering or maybe even Ray's soldering. I don't know. Ray's really good solderer. And a lot of you are really good solderers. But a lot of times is we'll get in a hurry and that solder will just cool off, or your iron's just a little bit cold, or you'll get in a hurry and you'll move it and drag it away so that it doesn't look right, and it's very frustrating. So if you give the solder, and you can see it, again guys, I know I sound like a broken record, but well actually broken records don't play. So here we go. So what we're going to do, you have to give your iron time to melt, your solder time to melt. And you can take that and just like this, if I do this like this, this is a great way, well, not a great way, but it's another way to learn how to run a bead, okay? So you go touch and go like that, and you get these spots, okay, just like that. So then, I always like to come back and flux over top of that, because sometimes the heat will evaporate it. So I'm just going to start right here. I'm going to give it time to melt. See it right there behind me. Okay. And then right there where we started, we need to clean that up. Okay. Voila. So you can see this is kind of flimsy. Okay. So let's fix that.
You have time for a couple questions?
Yeah, let me tack this together and keep it from
Well,
moving.
while you're working.
Sure, go ahead. Pardon me.
Jules said, I see you don't pin the project in place to solder. I find my pieces separate without pinning in place.
Jules, if this was going anywhere besides a table when I get done with it, it would be pinned together and in place to where it's not gonna move on me, because like you, I have the same problem. Stuff moves around on me. But typically, yes, this would be pinned in place if it were something that we were keeping or working on. But this is a notebook, and the notebook is for your guys' benefit to learn how to solder. So, but yes, Jules, do the you definitely want to make sure you pin your work in place. Otherwise, it does move all over the place. And thanks for noticing. Thanks for noticing. All right. Well, that's pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and just solder this and kind of make it a little more rigid. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to solder some straight lines. Now you guys keep in mind, any super thanks or super stickers, they all go to funding the ARTyRV channel and for funding projects like this. And if you want need some really pretty eyes for something, you can always use your solder blobs. Okay. Now, when you're doing decorative soldering, like Barbara has showed you guys in the past, it's really nice to be able to. I'll make sure that didn't drop in my lap. It's still kind of hot. So if you move, again guys, if you move too fast with your solder, if you move too fast, it's not going to come out the way that you want it. Before you start solder, wipe your tip clean, give it a moment. Wow, look at that gold. Ready? Let's run a bead. Here we go. Okay. So now this is foiled with 7/32 black back foil. And as I run that bead, you can see where I put my soldering iron. And you can see where I laid my solder.
Oh, thank you, Carla. Carla sent us a super. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Carla.
We love you.
Well, and thanks everybody. I mean, come on. Thank you, guys.
Carla wants to know, if my glass pieces are jammed up against each other, does that prevent a good solder? Should there be some space between the glass pieces?
Absolutely not, Carla. The closer the glass is together, the less it moves, the more stability and strength it has. Spaces create weakness. So there, you all saw that. Let's do another. Guys, let's do a touch and go. Let's do a 1-2, 1-2. And you can do your whole piece like this if you feel more confident and you think it looks better than trying to run a bead, the simplest way is to do the 1, 2 and then come back and go through it. But don't go through it, you know, with a bunch of, don't go through it with a bunch of heat. So you see that, we've got that. We're going to put a little bit of solder right there. Just like that. So you just run that bead. Okay. Now I don't do a lot of copper foil work, but I have built a ton of lamps. And copper foil soldering, if you're going to build lamps, it will definitely teach you how to do it. If you haven't done it and learned how to do it, building lamps will definitely teach you how to do it. So, you know, so there are on our page, on our shopping page, on our Amazon page, there are books there that are available for purchase, and those are the books, y'all, that are the best books that we feel that are still being published for the amount for what we do. Right over here to my right, you'll see this is a great little book for terrariums and things like that. And there's also some great lamp books, Northern Lights, just a bunch of beautiful lamps inside that are easy to take care of and easy to build. So when you start fabricating lamps, you're going to learn how to solder.
That's a good one. The
And
stained
this
glass
is a great,
garden.
yeah, this is a great little book, The Stained Glass Garden. So it teaches you how to make different little candle holders and votive things and just all kinds of crazy stuff for your garden, which is understandable, and we all like it. So,
I have one more question before
Okay.
you get started on the lead. Are you going to be doing the lead? Or you got 2 more of those? Okay. Are you using the new solder, and how is it working?
I'm using the ARTyRV 6040 solder, and I like it. There's no trash in it. I don't have any trash in it. Now, I ordered this solder from Franklin Art Glass. I ordered this solder from them, and because they had just gotten it, and I wanted to try it. So I like it. If you need 6040, give Franklin a call. Okay, so a couple different things. We have this iron here, and a lot of y'all will sometimes do copper foil, small pieces and very delicate and intricate work, and then you'll insert it into lead. Well, when you insert your panel, your copper foil panel into the lead, there we go. So when you insert your copper foil panel to the lead, you're gonna solder it, but you're not gonna go crazy with it. What you're gonna do, let's put this out right here. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna take now this is probably, let me see. Well, that's not too bad. 1, 2. Okay, so 3. It's a little bit hot. Okay, top that down. A little bit of flux. And I'll show this to Barb close up. When you don't flux it, it gets fluxed. So I'm just going to run this down to the lead for you, and then I'll set it up and let Barbara see it. Okay, so when you, okay, So when you wrap your copper foil piece inside of lead, you just have to tack solder the joint right there, right up to itself. Can you see that pretty good?
Yes.
Pretty good.
Thank you, Anna. Anna just gave us a thank you.
Oh, thank you, Anna. We appreciate that. So yeah, so let's do a couple really quick beads. Those of you at home with your soldering irons out, follow along with me.
Thank you, Anna.
Anna, thank you. So yeah, so let's get this done, and then I'm going to plug in my my 100p. Now I do not have a constant feed of solder. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. I do not have a constant feed of solder. I'm pulling this away, and you can see me work. I'm pulling this away because, you know, eventually you can just melt so much solder on there that you get too much.
Bless you, Ed. Ray said bless you.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that, Ray. All right, so we got that out of the way. That's, you know, I think that we pretty much, for a nice little workshop on a Saturday morning, I think we just maybe have learned how to stop fighting with our solder. Stop fighting. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna unplug this. But the thing that I want to do before this cools off completely is I want to wipe it clean. Okay. And then I want to put a little bit of solder on it. See that? See how that just wrapped right around there like that? Okay. There we have it, kids. Okay. So now that's going to cool off, and we're going to wrap that cord around it and put it away. That's a nice little iron for your studio, guys. A lot of times they're hard to find. Now we're going to be working with lead, so I'm going to set this iron up, my 100p. I'm going to set it up on 7 and see what happens. The other thing is, and now this iron takes a lot longer to heat up than the other iron that we were just working with, the little 1170. So got a little bit of lead out here, got my iron heating up, got my rheostat set on number 7.
Oh.
And this is going to be...
Oh, sorry. Nina just sent us a super.
Oh, guys, thank you all so much. That's awesome. Well, like I said, you know, when you do a super thanks or a super thank you for us, or just a super sticker, that all helps support the ARTyRV channel, and that's a great thing for us. Barbara and I both have real jobs, and we run Conway Glass, but any help that we get for the ARTyRV channel is greatly appreciated. So just to let you know, we do appreciate it. So we're waiting for an iron to heat up. Let's see how it's doing. Oh, it's still cold. This iron, this 100p, excuse me, this 100p just takes a little bit longer to heat up, and that's fine. It's a bigger iron. It's got the 700 degree tip in it, and it is a 100 watt, which means it's going to recuperate the heat right now. As soon as it cools down, boom, it gets hot again, so it's ready to roll. But again, even with this iron, y'all, we want to make sure that that tip tries to stay gold. If you're using a soldering iron that the tip, as soon as you clean it, turns dark blue or purple, it is way too hot, y'all. Way too hot. And you know, a too hot iron is as bad as a too cold iron. You really need to get it right in the middle. Too hot iron will start melting stuff, start breaking stuff, and your solder will not stick to the tip at all. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of little things to remember. It's kind of like those of you that play golf, there's a lot of things to remember before you hit the ball. A lot of things to remember before we start cutting glass and fabricating stained glass windows. Let's check the temperature on our iron now and see what happens. Here we go. Oh yeah. See how that came nice and clean?
Now, still confusion. Carl, let's see. Bobby thought that the Weller 100 temp is controlled with the tip.
No.
That's the maximum temperature, Bobby. That's all that is.
All that is Weller, their engineers confusing everybody.
It's the maximum
Temperature that the tip will go.
The tip will go.
If you don't use a rheostat, it's going to go to 700 degrees and it's not going any higher, but it's going to start melting everything you got. And
Or you have to slow down.
Yeah, you have to slow down, but also it's going to produce a lot of trash. And when it gets that hot and you start soldering, Bobby, what it does is it just produces a lot of trash, and then you end up with all this black stuff in your work. And it's really, and it's just, it's just because you're working too hot. The rheostat for $32 or whatever they cost these days, it's well worth it because soldering irons are $70. And if you can control your soldering iron, get your soldering iron under control. But if you can control your soldering iron, it'll last a lot longer for sure. And your work, and I've had many testimonials since we started the ARTyRV channel about, wow, when I got my rheostat, my work changed. And it does. I promise you. If you don't have a rheostat, take the time to order one. If you have a Heiko 601 iron, you don't need one. It has the rheostat in it. But if you don't have one, get one and control that soldering iron. Just get it under control and you'll see that your work will change. So I think we're going to be okay on this. Let's try this. This is a nice little, oh yeah, look at that. Just a nice little, now we'll leave that on there for a moment. So we've talked about, these are lead nippers, guys, right here. These are lead nippers. So when you cut your lead and you bring it up to each other, you want your joints to fit like that. Okay? If you cut, I'm just going to cut this out of whack.
Judy just sent us a super.
Oh, Judy, thank you. So if you don't cut the lead square, it touches at the bottom and you have a huge gap at the top. And that allows the window to move around and fluctuate. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that is really in good shape and it's square like it's supposed to be. And then we're going to take our flux and we're going to flux that joint right there. Just like that. Now with your lead, when you're done soldering it, you really do want to spray it with glass cleaner and get all the flux off of it that you can. So we're going to do a quick test and we're going to see that? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So my rheostat, y'all, is at 7 on a 100-watt iron. And I'm getting ready to solder a joint because I did 1, 2, and the lead didn't melt. So here we go. Straight down. and straight up, and that's what you get right there. Okay. Straight down and straight up. Let's do that again. So we're going to flux it. We're going to melt the solder to the iron first. And then go straight down and straight up. You know, when you make a solder joint, what you're doing is you're joining these two pieces of lead together. When you join that joint together, you don't need a whole bunch of solder all over it. What you need is enough solder to make it look nice. And if you're, hang on a second. If your soldering iron says that it's or your miter joint says, let's do this right here. So I've got this cut kind of at an angle like that because I want to show you something. So when we cut and take the time to miter the lead, we should take the time to make sure that the solder looks good too. So here's the thing, is if the joint is a T, you make your lead joint, your solder joint a T. If it's a Y, you make it a Y. If it's an X, like this is,
Oh, Bobby, thank you.
if it's an X like that. Yeah, Bobby, we got your message that you had set your clock for 9 o'clock this morning.
Thank you, Bobby. She sent us a super.
Okay, that's awesome. So just remember, this is a conglomerate of lead that doesn't really mean anything, but what it does show you is the test that I'm always talking about on Monday nights. Before you start with your lead, do a test with your soldering iron and get that all done. And I'm going to show you this because
Sorry, I'm answering questions and I'm not filming.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
No, so what I want to show you is that even though this is a 100 watt iron, if I tilt it up on its edge and give everything time to melt, you see the way I'm moving everything around right here? Now I can't move as fast with this wide tip as I can with that narrow tip. Now they do make a 1/4 inch tip for this iron, and you can get that, but I prefer to have just my 2 different irons. I use one for one specific thing and one for another. Okay, so there you have it. I hope that today has been a wonderful day for you guys. It's been a great time for me. I hope that you've learned something, or maybe, if not learned something, just maybe something that be like, oh, well, I'll try that next time and maybe that'll work. If my techniques help you better your work, then I've done my job. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
And so we'll be doing another one of these soon.
I think so, in a different process.
Yeah, I think we're doing a cutting workshop next.
I think, yeah, next is going to be a workshop, cutting workshop. So here's the thing. For our members, those of you that are tuned in today,
And the members, I think, can watch.
and yeah, you can continue to watch this.
I think.
But so yeah, so next one, when you get the warning, get your glass cutter and some scrap glass and your glass tools, and we'll cut glass for the morning. Love to teach you guys a little more about this process, and we'll try and do something besides just little S's. We'll learn how to cut some different tricks for glass.
And
so.
we'll see everybody Monday night at 7 o'clock as
Please
usual.
tune in.
And if you have any more questions, just bring them to the chat on Monday night.
Y'all, thank you so much. And for the ARTyRV channel, I'm Ed in the studio
And I'm
with
Barb.
Barb.
I'm here.
He's right there. Believe me.
We love y'all.
We're always together. I love it. Thank you.
See y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. We love y'all. Bye-bye.
Give us some feedback. Let us know how this helped.